Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unapologetically You with myself, Tulls, and the beautiful Kelly, where we discuss all things health and wellness. So, we use science backed tools, we support you and your family. So, hopefully, these topics can provide thought provoking conversations to get you motivated to look after yourself and the ones you love. Now, today's hot topic of the day is about Ayurveda. Now, if you have already known about this is going to be really interesting because being Kelly, I don't know personally that much about it, and I know
Mm-mm,
Kelly doesn't either, right, Cal?
mm-mm. Right.
So
Yeah.
so before we begin, this is going to be interesting, but before we begin, I want to say a personal thank you to listening in, for finding us, and more importantly, for showing up for yourself. And if you'd like to support what me and Kelly are doing, please head over to the Patreon page where you can support us just for the small price of a cup of coffee. And we'd appreciate if you can share this podcast too, so we can reach more people and increase our community around health and wellness for yourself. Without further ado, hi, Cal.
Hi, Tulls. Gee, you speak so well on the intro. I love it.
Well, the thing is, so for the guests, Kelly just told me about her next plans this evening, and you know how you kind of get that adrenaline rush where you're like, oh shit,
Mm,
I've got to do this quickly and I've got to do this right. And the last two podcasts, I fudged up the
you
intros
did.
so
But in a
badly.
funny way. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, that was crap. I need to do it again. So I was like, no, I'm not doing this
Mm.
again. This is gonna be it.
This is
Okay,
it.
so
I'll leave it to me to fudge it up then. It's about to
no,
happen.
no, it's fun because we get to other people get to see our imperfections too, right? Because nobody's perfect. Okay, so Cal, our question and answer feature. This is my favorite part.
Uh-huh.
All of it is my favorite part. But you're looking super glam today. I want to ask, what is your biggest win this week? So obviously 7 days from when we're recording.
Yeah, okay. My biggest win was another step forward with the business. Brought on physiotherapists to be part of it now as well. So we've expanded, and I'm going to say we had big celebrations over that down in Byron Bay. We went to a really nice restaurant, and yeah,
I love that. That is an awesome big win.
it was. It was. It's
Congratulations.
happening faster than we expected, as fast as we'd hoped for. But then you know what you hope and what you expect are two different things. So this is just an example of planning for what you hope for, not planning for what you expect. So yeah, we've actually been scrambling a little bit, and you know that because I've been taking a lot of shifts that I wasn't
Yeah,
necessarily rostered on
yeah.
for. But anyway, yep, good
No,
things are
that's so
happening.
exciting. And then the funny thing is, I was listening to a Danica Patrick podcast, and she's very much veered into the spirituality side of things, which I love,
Hmm.
honestly, just learning
Hmm.
way more about it. But in one of the podcasts, she says about not really expecting. Now I'm going to fudge this up because I'm
Hmm.
paraphrasing, but it was more like it's always going to turn out better than you expect. And if it's not great right now, well, how can it get better? Always ask. And this is the podcast with Michael Beckwith for people who want to check that out. I absolutely love Michael Beckwith and Danica Patrick, how she's evolving and being more open and vulnerable about her curiosity and knowledge about spirituality and bringing in these types of guests. And if somebody's having certain situations, it's like, well, how can it get better? How can it get better than
Yeah,
this? And it's not
yeah.
saying I'm a person who's definitely lowered my sense of expectation, but I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that
Mm-mm.
I'm going to lower my expectation because it's going to be even better than I thought it was going to be. So expect better. And I love that
Yeah,
it's coming along with such great momentum for you because it's coming. Like you already knew this is a good project. Your intuition is engaged, your intellect is engaged, it's giving you curiosity and big things that way, right?
yeah, yeah. No, it's all fun and exciting and a learning process as well. You know how much I love building those learning brain cells. So it has been fun. But the people we've met along the way, and us continuing to meet along the way are just heartwarming moments. which,
Oh.
brings us to the next thing. What put a smile on my face?
Yes. Oh my God, Kat, what are
I
you doing?
know, because here's one I prepared earlier. This is what put a
Ooh.
smile on my face. Here's a photo. Now, if you're listening and not watching, that's a picture of my friend Bill. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
Who yesterday, how old do you think he looks?
Oh, no, you already said this in a previous podcast.
Did I? Look
You
at
did.
him. 101.
101. He looks
Bless his
amazing.
little.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go. There he is.
there he is with his hula thing on. What's it called? Lay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was yesterday. So that definitely put a smile on my face.
Oh, happy
He was a
birthday to
prisoner of
him.
war for 3 years. Sorry? Yeah, happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
Billy.
him.
He was a prisoner of war for 3 years, and he said, every day of my life has been good. He said, yeah, he said, I've learned so much, I've done so much. He goes, I've never had a bad day. And you don't want to go, well, what about those 3 years in Germany where you had a potato to eat and a cup of flour for a month, And he goes, yeah, well,
But the funny thing is about humans is we suppress, forget
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
bad
But he's
moments.
also decided that
Yes, I
it,
think that's
yeah,
important too, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And
Smile
that
every day.
combination between, like when you're going through labor and you're just like, oh my God, I don't want to do this again. But then you're like, oh, I want another baby.
Yeah. Labor's amazing. Labor is the biggest, most amazing challenge I've ever put myself through, and I loved it.
Oh, wow. We're learning so much about Kelly now. Oh my gosh. I love
No,
it.
you learn so much about you get through that and you go, if I can do that, I can do anything. It is so empowering. Loved it. Had no drugs, no
What?
pain relief. Yeah, no
Oh
pain
my God,
relief,
this should have been
nothing.
in a previous podcast. For those of you who are just tuning in to this very first podcast, listen back because we just aired a about breast milk and
Oh
breastfeeding
yeah.
things like that. So that was really interesting. But you didn't mention how like empowering labor was. But yes, I completely agree with you in terms of
Yeah.
it gives you that new level of
You feel like Superwoman.
yes, yeah,
You do. And
yeah.
it's partly the hormone release, I guess. But honestly, you want to remember that and go, remember that time you just went, if I can do that, I can do absolutely anything.
I love
And
it.
yeah, you can just go back to feeling that way or trying to remember what it felt
Yes, and your
because,
thoughts
yeah,
create your reality. So if you're thinking you are powerful, that you are able
yes,
to cope with anything, that anything that is happening right now is so small in comparison to how big and how opportunistic you can get it. Like, how can it get better? It's almost like this is just a fraction about
oh,
everything else that's
it's,
going on.
there's so much abundance, there's a, yeah. And it makes you realize that there's endless amounts of what's that song that I can't think of. I'm not going to sing it, but you had unstoppable. Now the word just came to me.
Yes, by
That's
Sia.
there's just so much of that feeling out there available. You just got to tap into it. You don't have to have a baby. You don't have to go through labor. You can tap into it. But I have to say, going through labor, we're really off track.
We are a little bit off track, but it's no, this we're still in the question and answer phase about what made you smile. And I wanted to go into like the intention of the week anyway. So okay, so that you've got a biggest win, you've got an
Yeah,
amazing, story about the smile, but what
yeah.
is the intention? And maybe on the theme of this empowering
Oh,
story.
yeah. I guess my intention would have to be after saying that to remember what it felt like over and over and over again. Yeah, and just go, remember that feeling when if I can do that, I can do anything. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. And you start, yeah,
I don't
go.
know about you guys who are listening, but I like from this morning, I felt like my heart expand and just like I'm so open to like just I'm in this energy of love, like just love and abundance and joy. And I'm just like, I feel like this is radiating. It's like bouncing off each other. We're halfway across the world, but energy doesn't have time, space, boundaries. So if you are feeling this vibe right now, please tell us in the comments. But let's move on. Should we move on to the hot topic of the day?
Yes, let's do.
Okay, let's go into I so I'm gonna really not be, great to my Indian heritage because I didn't know that much about Ayurveda.
Well, it turns out I don't either. I've certainly heard of it. I know people who have gone to an Ayurveda practitioner, didn't really even know how to say it till I heard you say it. I would have said Ayurveda, but it's
Yeah,
Ayurveda.
I think I
You don't
botched it
know?
up a number of times until
I
I
know.
said
Look,
it.
it's just the Australian way to say it, but So I did do a bit of research over it because I knew so little. But it literally is I'm going to read out what I found.
Amazing.
And yeah, so excuse all of the pronunciations. Please tell us below the correct way to say things. So here we go. See if you learn anything from this, Tols. Ayurveda is an ancient system of medicine that originated in India more than 5,000 years ago. And the word Ayurveda is derived from the Sanskrit language and translates to the science of life. Isn't that nice?
I love it.
Where Aya means life and Veda means knowledge or science.
Nice.
Yeah. So according to Indian tradition, Ayurveda, Ayurveda
Ayurveda
was
or
revealed.
Ayurveda? It really depends if you pronounce
Ayurveda,
it.
Ayurveda. I want to say
Yeah.
it properly. Ayurveda. Ayurveda was revealed by the gods to sages who lived in deep meditation. These sages then passed down their knowledge to future generations through oral traditions and written texts, including the Vedas and the Sharaka, Samhita,
Mm.
Sanhita, and Sushruta. Pass on some of that beautiful way you
I
pronounce
don't know.
these
Would you?
words.
I don't know
And
how.
San,
I like the way you pronounce it. Is it Chakrata or Samhita,
yeah, see, you've
Susrata,
got
and
you can wrap
Samhita?
your tongue around it. Anyway, and two foundational texts of Ayurveda. So
Wow.
that's what my little bit of research found out. That's just more about the history of it, but it
Yeah.
certainly is used a lot in modern day practice.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. And this is so
Yeah.
fascinating
Well, in
because I
Australia,
thought,
it is.
is it? But
Uh-huh.
do you think it's come from Australia and like America? I know British people usually follow Americans and Australians, but it's like
Yep.
I haven't heard that much about it in the UK. I've known about it because people have been writing about it from the US. And I've got a lot of people and
Okay.
friends in the US. And I feel like, yeah, this is where I'm like, I'm so bad that I didn't know about it regarding the Indian heritage and tradition. And what I found out, the little bits that I found out, it has evolved and adapted and changed to within, modern day society and brought in that scientific knowledge. Because I feel like if you put anything in the Western world, it needs that little bit of science-backed tools. It's almost like pretty much what we try and do with our podcast, right? It's like it's
Yep.
teetering on the well, this it's been going on for ages and it's really good for you, but then here's a little bit of the science for the skeptics or for the people who need that tangible 3D reality proof. And I feel like the fact that it's been a part of, you said 5,000 years, it's been a part of the
5,000
stuff.
years.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And then also, it
It's a
doesn't
lot of
surprise
years.
me because way back in the day, didn't they have all this like plant-based, okay, well, we're going to put this on your skin to heal because of bites or
Totally. Yeah.
diseases and things like that. And obviously, modern science has obviously veered away from that, but they still use chemicals from nature to
Totally. Yeah.
functional immune
I
system.
mean, they wouldn't really admit that modern day medicine comes from Ayurveda or herbal herbs, but it does. It gets what's it called when, there's one component that is the active component. So they drill down on that active and just use the active in medication. But that's also why there's so many side effects to medication, because it doesn't have the unactive components, but just help it along the way, you know?
And plus, the way we respond to those medications are going to be different. And I remember when
Yeah.
there was another book that I was reading, and it says the medicine, the science, the research had already gone from, okay, so this is the male anatomy, this is how the male physiology functions, and then we're just going to
Yeah.
reduce the dosage for females. And it's like, well, wait a
Oh,
second,
right.
they have completely different hormones, they have different like cycles, like in terms of we look at the 24-hour cycle for a man, but we have to look at a month cycle for a woman. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
waves in
Right.
estrogen, testosterone, even for women, like people forget you've got testosterone as women. So it's like,
Hmm.
the progesterone, all these things that are coming through that they are going to be affected highly for women. And obviously that wasn't taken into account. So I feel like it's almost like you can't really go wrong with Ayurveda treatments for health and well-being, but you still need to find your own what works for you, right? So a little bit of background. So I read up that obviously the traditional system of medicine originated in India thousands of years ago, and it's the concept of balancing the body, mind, and spirit, which I love. So it's achieving all of that holistic approach for optimal health and wellness. And that holistic approach is considered for the individual. So they don't just go, okay, so this is for the men, this is for the women, this is for the children. It's like going, okay, so what is physical, what is mental, what is emotional, and how does the lifestyle and environment impact that? Which I just found fascinating because I know very little about it. And so I think that the main goal, what I read, the main goal for Ayurveda was to prevent illnesses and promote health, to bring the body into balance. So, like you and I know a little bit about the chakra system. So, we're looking at the chakras in different elements of the body, and they they need to come into balance with one another. So, for me, that's the most familiar I have with the way I can describe Ayurveda. Like, how are we bringing in our diet, our nutrition, the herbal remedies, the meditation, the yoga? All of those are Ayurveda approaches. Um, but yeah, I think that some of the general points that I found out online was it improves digestion, it reduces stress, which obviously in this type of society, we've got a lot of stress in our environment. How to enhance our immunity, and then sleep as well. So then I think that again, it's just not just one or the other. If you improve digestion, you're going to improve your stress, you're going to improve your immunity, you're going to improve your sleep. If you can improve your sleep, you're going to improve your immunity, you're going to improve your stress and things like that,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So I
Yep.
think
Yep.
that
Yep. It sounds like I want to do it.
me
I
too.
don't know
Okay, so
why.
let's go into this a little bit further. Let's bring in our guest,
Yeah.
who is an
Yep.
Ayurveda practitioner, and she has been qualified and trained in this. She was a nurse in her previous life, but current life, I mean. So she is
Yeah.
ended up giving up her nursing, practicing to homeschool her daughter at the moment. So she's moved
Okay.
and now she's homeschooling her daughter, but she's also been learning about Ayurveda. So let's bring her in and just grill her a little bit about what it means, why does it differ from Western medicine, what type of diet, and what are the benefits of this practice. And I want to welcome my special guest, Jen DeWolf. Now, she is so special because we only met a couple of weeks ago. We met in Costa Rica, both during this immersive yoga retreat. So we became like jungle sisters, which was so much fun because we really did bond over, I guess, our trauma. Trauma bonded us. So basically, Jen was talking about her science background. I'm not going to reveal too much. I want Jen to explain to you what she's all about and why she's here. And basically, I brought Jen on to talk about Ayurveda. So she's the expert in this field, and I don't know that much. Kelly didn't know that much. So we're going to grill Jen and kind of just discover a little bit more about Ayurveda. So welcome, Jen. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me with you.
Thank you so
So
much for
good to see
taking
you.
time out of your busy day
Ah,
and coming on as a guest. I do appreciate this. Um,
absolutely.
can you please tell us? I know more about you, but I'd love for our audience to hear from you a little bit about your background and what actually, not only about you, but how you actually got into Ayurveda and what is it from your point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. I am trained as a nurse. So it has been over 20 years and I have loved it. I'm also a mom to two girls and a wife, and I have a family. So health has always been important to me, not only for the people I care for outside of my home, but inside my home. So nursing was something that I wanted to do for a long time and really thoroughly enjoyed once I was working in that field for a while. But I noticed that the industry is changing, if I can call it industry. Healthcare, at least here in the States, I can only speak from here in the States, is changing. And we got less time with our patients, less time to really chat with them and hear their stories, and more work to do. And I really felt like there was less care going out, and people were leaving with a band-aid or something to just to patch up a hole, something to take care of a symptom, not really caring for all of them. And that was really what I wanted to do as a nurse, and not just be that small portion where they came in and I said, well, maybe this will fix, or to give them instructions from, what the doctor said. And as a nurse, we get to, have a little bit more hands-on, but that just wasn't enough for me. So kind of being disillusioned with that, I started to do my own studies. And I had learned about Ayurveda years ago, but that was also when I was in my much younger years and I was indestructible. My health was vibrant and there was no way that I was ever going to need anything. The trips to the doctors weren't in my regular I didn't have to do that. So I just couldn't think of a time where I would need that. And then I got to the point in my life, I'm in my 40s now. I'm in the Vata stage of life, which, I'll tell you more about that later. But health is really important now. You really have to start taking care of ourselves. So it became much more interesting to me. And the more I read, the more I just loved it and couldn't stop reading about it. And then joined an online program to learn more about it, and really started to experiment with those things in my day-to-day life, and noticed how much better I felt. Trying to even incorporate that into my family and tell my friends and relatives. And I could see sometimes when patients would come into me, I worked in dermatology for the last 15 years of my nursing. So I could see them come in with all of these problems and things that I felt like, man, I could really help you and tell you these things. But unfortunately, my my facility didn't allow me to do that. So I really thought I would like to get out of the kind of the medical system as I know it, and really try to help people outside of that. So that was kind of how I fell into it.
I love that you say fell into it, but it was all purposeful, wasn't it? It was like, I love how things excite your curiosity, and you kind of just take this train to the unknown and you just discover all these magical things. And you said that you were curious about it, and obviously it was affecting you and your family. But then did you specifically not force it upon your girls, but were you kind of like trying it out with the family, with your partner, like just to go, actually, we're going to incorporate this? Did you let them know what you were doing and why you were doing it? Or did you kind of just like sneak it in?
Yeah, you have to be sneaky with your family and your kids, right? If you say this is what mom tells you to do, they're going to say, I don't want to do that. So, it's nice to kind of just ease it in and serve something that they may not know why you're serving it. Or, I have a teenage daughter now, and I have the background in dermatology. So we all know in our teens, our skin can be, you know, crazy one day to the next. And there are things that I'm able to, say, hey, if you try this, this will help. And, she's a little more receiving now that she's getting into the teenage, and I can help her with that. But yeah, I would definitely just try to alter dinner a little bit differently.
Mm.
I probably should have mentioned I'm a vegetarian as well. I've been that way since my first daughter was born. So that's 15 years now. My family is not, but I won't say that they are not more plant-based than not. So, I try to incorporate more of those fresh things. We'll talk later about the foods, but definitely try to bring more fresh whole foods. And everybody's trying to get rid of the processed foods, but in Ayurveda, we'll get into that later. Those are dead. So you want to bring life back into your eating. So I definitely try to do all that with them.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so me and Kelly, we did speak about Ayurveda, a little bit about its history, the ancient tradition of being centuries old. And then we also talked about what did we talk about? It's like a holistic approach, isn't it? Ayurveda is the healthcare that considers the whole body, taking into account. I love the physical, the mental, the emotional characteristics. It's not just one thing. But from your knowledge and experience, how would you class Ayurveda? Like, how would you explain it to somebody who's never heard of it before?
A lot of the things that you said, I mean, it's ancient. It's over 5,000 years old. It's really what Western medicine, a lot of it is based on. We just don't know that. It is, if you break down Ayurveda, I would probably tell someone Ayur is life, Veda is knowledge. The Vedas, the books of knowledge. So basically, it's the science of life is what Ayurveda is. It's the sister science to yoga. It focuses on the connectiveness, like you said, of mind, body, and spirit. And it wants to put your whole body in harmony with itself. It offers a very much more natural, holistic approach instead of just treating symptoms. Mm-hmm. It's for your overall well-being. And Ayurveda, the main focuses of it is to balance the doshas, to improve your digestion. And it has us just make some simple lifestyle changes that can just increase that harmony. It's basically living in harmony with yourself. And the world right now pulls us in so many different directions, and we're just all so out of balance.
I love that. I love the fact that you've broken it down so simply. However, I just wanted to ask, I'm going to take it back, like really strip it back. How would a person know that they're imbalanced?
Something would be telling you something doesn't feel right. Stress is an imbalance. We all have that. Only sadly, we're all living with that as normal. So probably we see stress as less of an imbalance, but more of your normal balance, sadly.
Yeah.
But that isn't the way it has to be. I could tell you from a dermatology standpoint, people who suffer from eczema, acne, dry skin. We could get into things like joint pain, foggy mind. All of those things, unfortunately, that we just live with every day are imbalances. So to live in, when we get all of those doshas in balance, ideally, we should be in good health and not have those things to complain about.
Oh, I love that.
Or to affect us.
Before we get into the doshas, just explain a little bit, because Ayurveda has a long history in Indian culture, how did that
Mhm.
differ, or how does it differ from Western medicine? Obviously, we're not trying to put a plaster on something or just like giving somebody prescriptions. Well, how does that differ from Western medicine? Can you just briefly explain that?
Sure. And I think I read it actually, and it just so made so much sense to me. But imagine walking in Western medicine, walking into your doctor's office and being unique, having them look at your mind constitution, your body constitution, your emotional constitution, seeing all of you as a unique individual, and then basing your healthcare upon that, not having looking at you and basing you on the example that they learned in a textbook,
Oh my
because we're all
God.
different. Yeah.
That you blew me away with that explanation because it's so
Right.
accurate.
Right. I mean, we now have to go, if you're having trouble with breathing, you go to a pulmonologist. If you're having trouble with your heart, you go to a cardiologist. If you're having trouble with your joints, you may be an orthopedist. There's somebody for everything, which is great that we have that, that they've specialized, that they've studied. But imagine having someone say, "Oh, um, this is causing it. Maybe we can go all the way back to just putting some different foods in your body
Yeah.
instead of adding another medicine to your regimen."
You know, it's funny you say that because I do that with my clients. So my client will say, "This hurts," right? And for those not watching on YouTube, I'm pointing to my shoulder, but it could be anything. You could say, "This hurts," right? And what I would do then is either look higher from that joint or area of pain or lower. So is there weakness and tightness in one area, which it could be your neck, or is there weakness and tightness in your other area, which could be the elbow or your wrist? And so it's almost like saying, I'm not looking at that origin of pain, I'm looking outside of that, beyond that. And I feel like Ayurveda is similar, right? It's actually going, you are a unique being. We're not going to whittle you down to what science has already said, which, by the way, is all originated from the male body anyway. All they do is reduce the dosage for females because there isn't enough scientific knowledge about female bodies, including brain health, including reproductive organs and things like that. So before I go off on my rant, it's a really good explanation to see, well, you are unique, and this is what makes a difference for you, for your health, for your wellness, for your mental and emotional bodies, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And Ayurveda would say, and anyone practicing in Ayurveda would say, come to me first. Let's see where we can go from the ground up. And if it is something, I mean, obviously there's a place and a time for, surgeries and things like that.
Mm.
Those will happen, but why not give your body the chance to heal itself first and then go there if you have to?
So is there kind of like an extensive assessment, like, because this person will need to assess what's going on, right? Is there an extensive assessment before there is like a treatment from the
Yes.
Ayurveda medicine?
Yes, if you see an Ayurvedic practitioner, it will be an extensive meeting. You will discuss not only, if you went into, say, an office that was Western based, they may ask you, okay, tell me about your symptoms. And if Ayurvedic practitioner is going to say, tell me about you. What do you do in your daily life? How is your sleep? What do you eat? What do you do? How do you exercise? They'll take your pulse. Your pulse matters. They'll read your pulse. That can give them clues into lots of things, not just your constitution, but other things that can be going on. They'll look at you. They'll look at your pallor. They'll look at your hair. They'll look at the way you move, the way you speak, all of that.
Oh
All
my
of that is
God.
taken
You're
into.
blowing
Yeah.
me away on this
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is amazing. I'm so glad I
Yes.
got you on here to speak about this.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned the doshas. What
Mhm.
is a dosha? Apparently there are three in Ayurveda. And how do you determine your dosha? So what is it?
Doshas are energies basically, or we have all three of them. There is no person who has who is just kapha, just
This is
vata,
for
just
males
pitta.
and females and children?
Males and females.
Okay.
Everyone, yes.
Okay.
And the three, let me tell you that first, are vata, pitta, and kapha. Vata is made up of the element of earth and water. It's very grounded, soothing, calm. They're also, the vatas can be associated on times of the day. We'll get into that. But think of a kapha person is, if there's anyone in your life that you meet, their smile and their hug makes you feel just like home, like you just sink into them, like they just, those people are probably kapha. They are caretakers. They are always taking care of everyone else and sometimes not taking care of themselves.
Like moms.
Yeah, like moms. Not all moms. I mean, now again, we have, I should say, I said we have all three, but some are originally or born with one more prominent than the other. So when I say someone may be more kapha, that may just be their prominent energy that shines through.
Does that mean they've been taking care of that kapha? How do you say again? Kapha?
Kapha. Yeah.
No.
So
more, or is just prominent within there?
It's just, remember, we want all three just kind of balanced.
Gotcha.
But when you asked how you may find your doshas, and there are plenty of quizzes or questionnaires out there that you can take and find that out. And most of us are born with a certain constitution. So I'll lead you into mine. I was born a little more pitta vata kapha. And then when I got into this and took my assessment of where I am now, I was out of balance. So my vata was soaring high. So, and I'm getting a little out of order for you, but we'll finish the doshas. So knowing that kapha may be out of balance, you may have a very slow metabolism. You may be sick with coughs and things and colds. You may be very prone to that. You could have thyroid issues. You could have increased weight, slow digestion, those things. So if you think of earth and grounding, if you're out of balance with your kapha and you have too much, you're too heavy. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah.
Okay. So then we would move into vata. Vata is air and ether. Think of it like breath, wind. They're very light, cold, dry are the qualities of those. And those are called gunas. And we won't get into all that. That'll be too much today. If you have too much vata, too much wind, what would you think of? Too much.
Like either burping or...
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So you could be bloated all the time. You could be constipated. You could have hormonal issues. You could have amenorrhea, not getting your period. I mentioned that these doshas are also assigned certain times of life. I'm in the vata stage. I'm in my older stage where your skin starts to become dry. Your hormones are going out of balance naturally. So working hard to keep yourself in balance. Dry hair, those kinds of things would be out of balance. So they would need certain foods to get themselves back in balance. Joint pain is another thing with vata. Then there's pitta, just fire and water. The hot, fiery, powerful is generally what we think of with that dosha, that energy. Good digestion, good digestive fire, which is called agni. It's burning. So when you think of fire, digestion is kind of like our furnace. Right? So they generally have good digestion. They're generally very strong individuals, kind of more athletic. But they can be prone to heartburn and acidity, too much fire. So these things are all things that we kind of know, like, oh, heartburn, fire. So, you may have already told yourself a symptom of being out of balance, but just not put it into Ayurveda because you don't know about it.
Oh, that's so clever.
Yeah. So, and if you're in balance, pittas would be very sharp and focused, good motivation, direction on where they want to go, leading a lot, knowing what they want to do and going for it. but they can get with that out of balance. They're the ones that can tend to get hangry. If you're not feeding them, not eating, they get very angry quick. So
like a lot of people, right? If
that is a lot of people right now.
Or not enough food.
Yes, exactly. So those energies are also associated to times of the day. The kapha time is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Then Vata's time is 2 to 6 a.m. and p.m. and Pitta is 10 to 2. That can be beneficial because if you're someone who is Pitta in nature, kind of fiery, you don't want to do something, let's say, like go and exercise during Pitta time 2 and 6 or 10 and 2. Sorry, that's a hot time. You don't want to go get hot, and it's a recipe for imbalance to do that. So you might want to exercise in kapha time because that's the time that our bodies are naturally kind of grounded. So exercising during that time would get you revved up, which 6 to 10 in the morning, how many of us are in the gym?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Is that too much?
No, that does make sense. I was just thinking because I was like, well, this is where Ayurveda comes into, this is specific for you. So we hear in science of, oh, we've got an afternoon lull, or if you're not concentrating in work or in meetings straight after lunch, it's because you've carb loaded, or you haven't eaten the right things. And it's proven by science, because that's what the research is coming out with, but it's been happening for decades in Ayurveda. Like it's almost like, the person who knows it all, and it's like, I've been telling you this for the last freaking 5,000 years, or why haven't you been listening?
Exactly. Do we have to repeat it again now?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Totally.
So I love that you explained the doshas. So thank you so much. It was so clearly broken down. So let's move on to, obviously you talked about the systems in our body and metabolism and what time of the days is probably good for eating or not eating even. So what is an Ayurvedic diet? So you were vegetarian. Is that compulsory as the Ayurvedic diet? Do you have to be vegetarian?
You do not.
Okay.
But I will say that that it serves certain constitutions better.
What do you mean?
There may be a time meat is heavy, dairy can be heavy, so too much of that can imbalance kapha.
Right.
So someone who is who that isn't going to benefit, then they shouldn't be eating that.
Gotcha.
That makes sense?
Yeah. It does. And so what is an Ayurvedic diet? You mentioned right at the beginning, it was about grown, fresh foods, right? No, say, artificial preservatives, things that have been kind of like on the shelf for the next couple of years.
Yes, exactly. Well, and first of all, I would love to say that Ayurveda, obviously over 5,000 years ago in India, there was a lot that was available then that is different from what is available now. Dairy was not processed; it was fresh from the cow, and well maintained. So dairy that are in the recipes that you'll find it's just different. Yogurt, paneer, much different than what you would consider. It's not the yogurt that you're buying off the shelf with all the sugars in it. It's not those things. So, and as much as Ayurveda is laid out for you, what I love about it, and that I would encourage everyone who wants to look into it, is to make it modern for yourself. One of the rules or the guidelines to go by with Ayurveda is fruit is eaten by itself and not eaten within an hour of any other food. Well, I love my smoothies. and fruit on yogurt or things that are commonly done. So same. These things you have to. It doesn't mean, oh well, I love those things, so I can't do Ayurveda.
Oh, okay. So it's really flexible. Is that what you're saying?
Very, very flexible. I would say if you could eat Ayurvedically, 80% of the time, you're doing fantastic.
Okay, so let's discuss what an 80% ideal would be.
Yeah. Ayurveda is any diet that is the aim to keep your doshas in balance.
Gotcha.
So we talked about having them in balance, and that means just not one. I'll use myself as an example. It's very easy. I currently have noticed a little bit of a pitta imbalance. It's getting hot here in Florida. I'm hot. I want ice cold smoothies and that. But with a fire that's burning, if I put something ice cold on it, I'm going to dampen that. If you put water on a fire, it just kind of steams and sizzles. It doesn't do anything. So I have to be careful. That's cooling to me while I'm hot, but that isn't helping me.
So what do you do instead?
So I would use, if I did smoothie, I might choose to freeze my fruit instead of put a load of ice in.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's cooler, and it kind of quenches your thirst, because nobody really wants a room temperature smoothie. But that kind of cools, but it doesn't do too much. And that would be okay for me during this hot time because I'm increased. So and choosing fruits that are cooling for me, watermelon, putting celery in, apple.
Yes.
Those are coconut. Those are cooling fruits for me.
It makes sense.
Right.
Completely makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So quick question then. So my auntie says this all the time, right? People in India, obviously it's a hot climate, especially during summer. It could reach like 45, 50 degrees. They say drink chai, and the chai is different than the way the like coffee shops make chai. We're talking about like cardamom, star anise, cloves, ginger, and it's all fresh. And then we add milk. We brew the tea like for a long while. Some might have sweetener, but the Indian tea, it's almost like a shot glass. It's not like a big freaking Starbucks glass. So basically, my auntie says, if you're hot, drink tea. And I'm like, but you've just put this boiling hot liquid and you're already freaking hot. How does that even make sense? But does that relate to the Ayurveda background of you're putting something hot in your body, but it's kind of cooling you down rather than getting you hotter? Did I explain that properly?
Yes. And I actually make it a point to drink room temperature or hot water.
Okay.
That I don't like cold water because, again, it puts out the fire, dampens the fire. So for me, it doesn't do me any good for my digestion. But yeah, the spices that are in chai can be, I think what's in there, some of them like blood vessel dilating, which is what happens when we sweat, when we cool. So absolutely. All of that's in there.
She was right.
Yes. Very much. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it doesn't feel like it because obviously you're drinking hot tea, but I'm just thinking there has to be something because you hear all these like, I don't know, like sayings and things you should do. And you're just like, well, how much truth is there on this? So that's really fascinating. So, okay. So what are the common Ayurveda herbs and remedies? Obviously we just mentioned one, but have you got another maybe 2 or 3 of herbs and remedies that maybe we can go to our supermarket and grab like today or tomorrow?
Yes, I would say probably the most well-known that you can find at any health food store would be your ashwagandha. Most people have heard of that.
And is that a root? Okay. So it is just like a plant, right? It's the root plant.
It's an herb, and you can find it in powder form. You can find it in tablet form. You can find it in capsule form, and I believe you can even find it in liquid form. So however is easiest for you to take it, that is probably the most well-known adaptogen, helps our body adapt to the stresses of, everything that's going on in our lives that are throwing us out of balance. So it's really the hero.
Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, when would you recommend us take that? Is there a specific time frame?
Yeah. Mine are taken in the morning. Okay. That's when I choose to take them, kind of right before I start my day. I also take them with some other herbs. Triphala is an important one that is wonderful for helping get our toxins out of our body. You can find that at the grocery store. That's an evening one. I don't take that in the morning. I also take Shatavari. That helps to balance hormones. And again, like I said, I'm in the stage where hormone balance is great for everyone around me, including myself. Turmeric. We all know turmeric.
Yeah.
That's an Ayurvedic herb, and people might not know. I mean, there's tons of people that don't know anything about Ayurveda that tell me they take turmeric because it's anti-inflammatory and someone told them about it.
No, that's amazing.
Oh, plenty. Yeah.
I think I put it in my anti-inflammatory PDF file on my website. So yeah, I was definitely like, you should take this.
Yeah, absolutely. Brahmi is a good one. That's cognitive improvements, focus. That's a good one. You can find that anywhere. And we would be amiss if we didn't mention Tulsi, holy basil.
Oh, yes.
That is a good one for stress as well, and boosts your immune system. And that one's very important.
Amazing.
So,
I love that. And you can drink, you've got the Tulsi tea, right? So you can just drink the tea.
Yes. Yeah, you can find lots of, I would say, again, if you're going to go to your supermarket, I would say pick some brands that are doing it right. I don't know if you want me to say any of those, but
we're not affiliated.
Sure.
So yeah,
sure. Organic India is out there. Himalayan products are really good. Those I really like. I love a website, Banyan Botanicals. They even have a dosha quiz set up that you can take your dosha quiz, and then you can go back in, say 3 months later, you want to check in, they'll retake it and they'll tell you where you are from where you started. What's out of balance. So love them. Yep. The program I'm in for school.
Do they ship internationally as well? Because a lot of our audience are international.
I believe so.
Oh,
don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Yeah. They're really good. They have a lot of their things are sourced with highest quality. So, and they make it very easy to understand. So, and it doesn't all have to be eating either. There are so many things to put in your life Ayurvedically to make a difference just in your self-care. Ayurveda would call it your dinacharya, your daily routine, waking early, brushing your teeth and scraping your tongue. Scraping your tongue, actually, I just read, is being recommended by dentists now. So finally they're on board with that. Yeah, right?
I've been doing it since I was a tiny girl. I thought it was only Indians who do it.
No, I hope not. I hope more people start to do it. That's a good way to tell. You can tell too by what your tongue looks like, by what might be out of balance as well. So, but things like that. Abhyanga, I love Abhyanga, which is self-massage.
Yes, I need to do more of that, actually. They do yoga, like some yoga sessions, they actually do encourage that, right?
Beautiful. I haven't been to one, but I hope so. That would be lovely.
I swear Ali has one of her, so people who don't know, this is where we went to the retreat. Ali Van Vossen, she holds Body Mind Soul Studio online, and that's obviously how we met. And she, on one of her videos, private videos, it is literally like massage your foot and massage your calf. I think it was one of the yin sessions. So definitely have a look, or maybe we'll ask.
Yeah, definitely.
But sometimes I used to cringe at doing that. And now I'm like, no, this is a form of self-love. You need to just love your body. And my whole fitness channel, my whole strength and conditioning channel is all about loving yourself and feeling good in your body, and self-massage is a big part of it. Does Reiki fall in Ayurveda?
Not that I have. I mean, all of these things kind of in my groups and in my classes, we would all talk about that or put it in there as a aid to any of these things. Whether it falls under Ayurveda, I don't think so, because that was actually I think more in the trying to think, not the Indian tradition, but Chinese condition. You did. I want to say Chinese tradition.
Yeah,
Ancient
maybe.
China?
Yeah, actually, you might have a point to that. Yeah, maybe it does.
But I mean, the wonderful thing about all of these healthcare systems that are for your well-being is that they intertwine.
I was going to say, yeah,
Yeah.
they have to kind of like touch upon each other, right? And as we so rightly said over the beginning, it is a holistic approach. So you're not just
Mm-hmm.
thinking about food, you're thinking about self-care and
Mm-hmm.
like for your mind too, right? Surely this broaches on the subject of meditation and all the thoughts you
Absolutely.
think and the things that you're saying. You know, are you in harmony with your own like throat chakra, for example? Are you speaking and saying the truth, but in, you know, in a nice way kind of thing? It's like being honest with yourself as well as honest with others, because some people can get
Yes.
stuck on that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And meditation, pranayama, all of that falls into Ayurveda too. So
Amazing. Okay,
yeah. It.
so breaking down some of the benefits,
Mhm.
you've mentioned so many during our conversation already, but can you just say what are some of the benefits? Not only obviously it's for anti-inflammatory, it's balancing the hormones, it's, you know, balancing our body. But what are the benefits, but also what are the risks or say side effects of Ayurveda? Could you mention like kind of the good and bad?
Yeah, I would say that if you are approaching Ayurveda with just wanting to improve your whole health, and there isn't anything specific, or I don't know how I want to say that. Like if it's just on I want to improve my health, then reading up, trying all these things, taking the quiz, eating better, I mean, it can only benefit you.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if there's something that you're really questioning, maybe it has something to do, we talk about women's health. So if there's something to do with your daily cycle that just seems off, I wouldn't just jump to the drugstore and get some shatavari. I would make an appointment with an Ayurvedic practitioner and really go through that whole assessment and
Yeah.
get all of it. So if I would say the only risk to that is if you really have something that you might think in your mind that you would go see a Western physician for, then take the time to go to an Ayurvedic practitioner and do that instead of try to fix it yourself, because then you could end up really out of balance.
I love that.
And you wouldn't want, yeah.
It's so good, right? Because you would see a consultant about something. You wouldn't straight away go to the surgery and go, yeah, I want that cut off, right? My arm is hurting, cut it off. No, you go to
Absolutely.
a consultant or a physical therapist or a strength and conditioning coach and just, you know, a physio, whatever. You would be like, what's going on? And so why wouldn't you do the same with Ayurveda, who go to a qualified practitioner?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is all about taking your health into your own hands, but there's a time and a place for someone else to step in and really help. So you definitely wouldn't want to put yourself in harm's way by trying to take care of something that's out of your scope of practice, shall we say.
Brilliantly said. I love the fact that you said that for sure. And moving on to, we talked about healthcare at the beginning, and you've got such an extensive background in nursing. And obviously, you wanted to help the patients through Ayurveda, but obviously, your hands were tied regarding your profession and, you know, the professionalism, because you can't really mix those two. How, I remember us talking about it when we first met, but how can it be integrated into modern healthcare? Like, if you were in charge of integration between the science, the modern medicine, and Ayurveda, how would you integrate it for people?
Yeah, I would say that I would love the Ayurvedic practitioner to be your first stop. I mean, if a facility where you went to, maybe where you had your specialist, had an Ayurvedic practitioner on staff, and they said go there first and let that practitioner get that whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you need surgery or need something, then you can go there, but then you have the idea of all of it. So it would be really great if that could be the first stop, because sometimes as simple as depression, or no, I shouldn't call that simple, as common.
I know what you meant. It was just an example.
Yeah. Certainly not simple, very complicated, but modern medicine just wants to throw medicine at it. And how great if you could have someone to say, if we could put these bits of self-care in, if we could put you in touch with yourself and meditation and some spiritual practices and rest and things that are good and feel good for our bodies, foods can just make such a difference before we get to that place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I completely understand, because the thing is, what you're kind of saying, and I'm paraphrasing, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's like sometimes we need to take away something before we can add in. And I don't think there is more like, what do you need before, like medicine would be, take this and let's see what happens in 12 weeks, for example, or maybe not that long, but like 5 weeks. Okay, well, that medicine didn't work because you've got these side effects. Okay, let's try this instead. And you could be there for 6 months. You could be there for a year trying all these different medications because they don't work for your body. Yet you're seeing, try out an Ayurveda practitioner and they will be able to kind of take out some of the layers of that onion, because it's something that you're holding on to. And it's just like, well, what is it before we add in that remedy or that benefit to you, right?
Yeah. And I will say it isn't all on Western medicine for sure, or how we handle, some of it relies on us as patients, or us as, we should, not everyone wants those things that are hard for them to do to fix the problem. That makes sense. It's so much easier. And I think a lot of people are being programmed to, I'll go in and they'll give me medicine.
Yeah.
Some of these things in Ayurveda may seem hard for people to do, to take the time to sit and meditate each day. Some people just can't sit still. My husband, bless his heart, is one of them. He does not, he has trouble sitting and not doing anything. And I tell him it would do so much good for your soul if you just sat in a little meditation. And he tries, but some of those things are harder than just taking a pill. So it comes down to, I think the people that search out Ayurveda are the people that are ready to make a change.
Yeah.
Or hopefully if they do search it out and read it, some of it doesn't seem so daunting and they think, well, I can make these little changes. So, and I think we as a society, we're coming around to realizing that the quick fixes aren't helping. So that is my hope for healthcare, is that we can get away from that mindset that, this whole bunch of chemical junk we put together is going to fix your body, because that just sounds terrible and scary.
Yes. It is very terrible and scary. And I agree with you in terms of, I think that people have probably got to a point where they've tried everything and nothing's working. And it's almost like this is the last resort. But rather than it being the last resort, make it the first resort, so you don't need to go through all that pain and struggle, right?
Exactly. I think it is, and I'm probably not going to say it right, but I think it's Deepak Chopra who says, we must take care of our health now, or we'll be forced to take care of our sickness later.
Yes. I love that quote. It's so true.
So true. So even if there isn't anything, that you're, like you said, how do you know if you're out of balance? You may not even know you're out of balance until you give some of this a try. So, and there's so much information out there. We talked about the doshas. If you search it up, it will tell you things to eat to pacify that. So if you're feeling, like I mentioned, my pitta imbalance is a little high, I want to eat foods that pacify it. I want to stay away from spices. I want to stay away from all those things like that just make me hotter. That will pacify that and calm it down. So once we maybe get calmed down and you try this for a few weeks, you might have said, I didn't even know I was out of balance, but I feel so much better.
And so obviously the male anatomy is on that 24-hour circadian rhythm. For the females, we're on a 28-day, for example, give or take a few days here and there. However, say, for example, if you're approaching the Ayurveda medicinal side of things, or, trying to find that balance within yourself, would you be able to find something, say, week on week, regarding your luteal phase, your ovulation phase, your menstruation phase, that would cater for those phases? Like diet wise, medicine wise, treatment wise, holistic size?
I would say not quite weekly. And I mean, there is information out there, and you could, of course, incorporate seed cycling or all of those eating for your phases into this. That's the nice thing about Ayurveda. It allows all, you can just put all of those things that you like together. And I think it would still, as long as it wasn't on your list to avoid, you'd be okay. Like certain nuts and things like that should be avoided for certain people. But it's more of a seasonal thing. Like it's more eating for the seasons and eating for your time of life, not so much eating weekly for your cycle, because your cycle is going to change. So when you're in your younger years, you're in your pitta phase of life, you're going, your system is operating optimally. And then as we get older, things start to slow down. So all of it changes. So as long as you're eating seasonally and according to your doshas to keep them in balance, you should be fine.
Okay, amazing. That's good to know, because obviously, like, I would recommend certain training for certain people, and like, when it comes to attention and cognitive focus, like that varies week on week. So I definitely do adjust training for my clients, especially female clients. But that is good to know that you may not necessarily need to adjust so much of your life regarding Ayurveda. So Jen, thank you so much for like being here and talking to me and giving so much advice. I've just got one final question. I know a lot of times, obviously, Ayurveda, we said at the beginning, is 5,000 years old. Obviously, it's seeped in Indian culture and tradition. But the thing is, a lot of times, things like yoga or meditation can only be brought to the masses if there is science-backed knowledge. And this is pretty much what we do on the podcast, right? It's health and wellness backed by science. We are kind of veering away from that because not everything is going to be evidence-based. When you try different things, you realize that this actually works. So it gathers more information and evidence through that recognition and acknowledgement of using it. So I wanted to ask, it's kind of like a two-part question. Do you think that Ayurveda has become more westernized? It's accepted in the Western area because it's having more of a science-based background? And can it be a science-based practice?
Well, I would ask you said that if you try it and it works, then we go for it. And I guess I would think, how is that not science? It doesn't have to be a study or science done by a third party to know that it's science. You did the work. You hypothesized that this may work for me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to experiment with this a little. And if you felt better, there's your evidence right there. And this is for 5,000 years, like you said, this has been tried and is and true to so many people, and it's still around. And I think that proves right there that, and it's coming back. We made a joke, it's been around for 5,000 years. How do we have to yell it? Do we have to tell you again? It has cycled back to where now we're going, whoa, we have strayed so far from what health is that we need to come back. So something that stood the test of time, I would say that that's evidence-based. Not only, I don't need somebody else to tell me. I know myself that I feel better. So that's all I need.
And it's great that you say that, because it's like we go to a doctor by saying, we need this, and then they try and give you something that may or may not work. But sometimes for a lot of women in particular, I'm not speaking for all women, it's just the general consensus of my GP isn't listening to me, or it's taken this long for my GP to understand, or for it to be diagnosed as this. However, we're not listening to ourselves. So whether it be, the distraction of social media, the bells and whistles and the shiny things that are distracting us, the immediate rewards that we want these days, how much are we listening to ourselves, or how much are we listening to other people telling us what we need and what we want, right? Because advertisers are doing an amazing job. They know how to get what they want, how to get us to buy what they're selling. But really, it's taking away our own intuition and guidance system as to what we need and why. So we're asking somebody else, well, what's wrong with me? And that's all fine. But we should actually know, well, what is actually wrong with me? What is going on? What am I feeling? What's going on in my head? What's going on in my body? And I don't feel like we've got enough time, silence, peace to actually sit there and listen to ourselves.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Which again, with these practices being the sister science to yoga, they would very much, Ayurveda would say, yoga is important as well. Sit with yourself in meditation, do the breathing, do the asana part, bring all of that in and relearn yourself and listen to what your body is trying to tell you. Find how you're out of balance and bring balance. That's the objective of both of those.
Amazing. Jen, thank you so much for letting me pick your brain. You have been amazing and I've learned so much. I'm so ready to look up all these websites, and my dad loves ashwagandha. So if he doesn't have anything this weekend when I go visit, then I'm going to definitely go buy some myself.
Yes, amazing. Thanks for having me talk about it. I just love to tell everyone about it. And I wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm a forever student of both. There's so much. So just I encourage everybody to take a look and find their balance.
Amazing. So how do people find you? Are you on Instagram? Can people follow you? Do you speak about Ayurveda, or are you not willing to share that?
Yeah, I'm just kind of starting to get into that. So we'll see, maybe in the future.
Okay, amazing.
Right now, I just talk to my friends and my family, and all of your friends are now my friends. So
amazing. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Jen. It's such a wonderful time to speak to you, and it's so good to see you.
So good to see your beautiful face.
I'll catch up with you soon.
All right.
Hi.
Bye.
Okay, so based on all of that information, what is your health and motivational tip of the day? I'm kind of stooped on this one. I don't know. Stumped?
Well, you know what I've been working with my clients with this week, and it has made such a difference to pain levels. So I work with people who are in quite a bit of pain. Breathing. And I think I've actually said this before, but breathing, but learning to breathe, diaphragmatic breathing.
Yes.
So Google that one. We might do another podcast on it at some stage. Meantime, she's going to write it down. That's my health tip of the day. Do a bit of Google research, or just breathing. Make sure you're not breathing like a sparrow.
Oh, I love it. And for anybody who's listening to this, comment below if you want to have this podcast about diaphragmatic breathing, because I'm interested in this and I'd like to pick Kelly's brain on how she practices it, especially with her athletes and the older population. So I find it really fascinating. My health motivational tip of the day. Okay, so this has come up twice, and it's not even linked to Ayurveda or anything that we've talked about in this podcast. But at the beginning of a podcast, I was blown away of how gorgeous Kelly looked. And so basically, she always looks amazing.
No, I don't.
She does. You do.
No, I don't.
Okay, you need to be a little bit more self-compassionate to yourself.
Oh, it's just fine. I live a very casual lifestyle.
No, but me too. This is the first time in a while that I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's just go online. I've not done anything to my face.
Oh, same. I just hope most people listen rather than watch.
I know. Hopefully you're not watching this on YouTube, because Tulsi's had a bit of a casual day today. So anyway, I reckon for people who want to feel good about themselves, okay, yes, you can go into the Ayurveda and the natural remedies and things like that. But what inspired me to create this health motivational tip of the day is one of my friends and I were talking about how colors and how certain colors of your clothes or what you wear, or, your makeup style, go find out what suits you. Go find out.
Oh, yeah.
You can literally change. And I'm not talking about change your wardrobe. It's like maybe put information in by, okay, so what do I need to do to just enhance my features? What colors do I need to put that just basically make me pop? And then you can kind of like reorganize what your current wardrobe is saying. So I'm in the middle of, I feel like I want to do that right now because I feel like my style and my taste is changing ever so slightly, but I also know what works for me. But it was so funny because it was like last podcast you were saying, oh, red is so your color, and that's all I did. I literally just put a red lippy on, tiny bit of makeup, not much. And like the other day I was recording a new series for my YouTube channel, tulsi.coach.
What is it?
Make sure you make sure you check out tulsi.coach on YouTube. On that new series, I put a little bit of makeup on, put a little bit more effort in. And I was like, I kind of like this look. And I feel like health motivational tip of the day, we're not being superficial. We're just saying, find out what works for you, and it will make the world of difference, not only to your self-confidence, but how you present yourself. Like, think of yourself as unstoppable, as Kelly said right at the beginning. You know, how
I'm not going to sing the song.
Step up.
But yeah.
But Cal, I love this podcast. I love the fact that we brought Jen in too to give her insight and knowledge about Ayurveda. And yeah, thank you all for listening. Thank you so much. If you found this podcast useful, comment below, share it with your family and friends. And we'd love for you to be a part of this community. Join us on Patreon, and the link of this can be found in the description box below. If you're watching this on YouTube and you see our lovely faces, hit the subscribe button, click the notification bell so you don't miss alerts on the latest YouTube podcast. And I hope you've enjoyed this. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you so much. It was awesome.
Love ya. I'll speak to you soon.
Love you too.
Bye.